wife was injured in a hiking accident and lost her memory. Everything was normal until I saw what she ate. I used to think that the worst moment of my life was when my wife woke up and couldn't remember who I was. But I was wrong. That wasn't the worst. The worst moment of my life happened today, and I still don't know how to process it. 3 months ago, my wife Cynthia and I were hiking on a trail about 30 miles outside of Albion. She slipped near the ridge overlook and fell nearly 20 feet onto a jagged outcropping below. I had no feasible way of reaching her, so I did what any rational person would do in that situation. I scrambled downhill to get somewhere that had service, and called 911. By the time paramedics finally arrived, she was unconscious and bleeding profusely from the side of her head. I must have waited in the hospital lobby for what felt like an eternity. Seconds crawled by like hours, weighed down by immense anxiety and uncertainty. When the medical staff finally informed me of her condition, they explained that it was nothing short of a miracle that her injuries weren't far worse. Her guardian angel was looking out for her, were the doctor's exact words. He urged me to remain cautiously optimistic about her recovery, but even that warning paled in comparison to the emotional anguish that followed. It was a long while before Cynthia finally had the strength to look at me, and when she did, her eyes were void of any trace of recognition. "Do I know you?" she asked. I didn't respond. The question felt like it had come from another life. According to the neurologists, cases of retrograde amnesia were rarely straightforward. I was physically there when they relayed concepts such as emotional instability and drastic shifts in personality, but mentally, I was elsewhere. I was warned that by the time she came home, the love of my life might no longer be the person I remembered. It was a lot to take in all at once, and I broke down many times after the news had long been delivered to me. In the days that followed, family members, friends, and co-workers alike all stopped by to see how well she was doing. While they were all focused on lifting Cynthia's spirits, I threw myself headlong down a rabbit hole of research, desperate to learn anything and everything that could help me with her recovery efforts once she was discharged. I spoke with a wide range of specialists and read articles late into the night, desperate to retain anything that could help Cynthia return to normalcy. The day I could finally bring her home couldn't come fast enough, but when it did I was overwhelmed with relief. I could free her from the confines of her hospital room and give her a much-needed change of scenery. On the drive back to our home, I couldn't help but wonder if it were possible for us to reclaim even a sliver of the life we had shared together before the accident. Her adjustment to life back at the house was a gradual process. But even with the accommodations I had made for her, changes were still noticeable. For starters, while she was able to remember my name, she started sleeping on the opposite side of the bed instead of next to me. I couldn't necessarily blame her for that. My name might have been familiar, but that alone didn't make me any less of a stranger. Another change I noticed was her newfound hatred for coffee. Cynthia said that it was disgusting. I was crushed when she said that because I had made it the way I remembered her liking it. She had been an avid consumer for years and refused to start any morning without it. What was once a morning ritual had now become yet another absence in our house. I poured the pot of coffee down the sink and never made another cup after that. Additionally, she forgot our address and even called our dog, Sammy, on multiple occasions even though her name was Zelda. For context, we've had Zelda for 7 years, and not once has she ever growled or bitten anyone. That is, until Cynthia came home. It wasn't hard enough to draw blood, but it was enough to send a message. When I heard her scream in pain, I immediately asked her what had happened. She insisted that all she had done was try to pet Zelda, but she wouldn't let her. She kept accusing Zelda of being out of control and that she needed to go, but she had never behaved like this. Ever. The entire time I talked to Cynthia about this, Zelda growled from the floor of the adjacent room. Even when I called her name to knock it off, she didn't look at me. wife.
I work as a detective. I'm starting to think my wife is a serial killer. I've seen some horrifying cases in my time as a detective, but I have a feeling this might be my most heartbreaking case ever. My wife and I live in a two-story home that we had built several decades ago. We are a ways away from the bustle of our city and our closest neighbors, who happen to be my son, Hunter, and his family. We enjoy living in relative solitude. I take our German Shepherd, Mr. Morris, on regular walks through the woods to get my mind off my job and the horrors I've experienced throughout my career. But today, my ordinary life all came crumbling down. I started my day off the same as any other. I had a cup of tea, put on my worn sneakers, and took Mr. Morris on a walk at about 6 in the morning. My wife, a school teacher, had already departed for the day. The sun was peeking out over the horizon, bathing the light layer of snow and orange light. Mr. Morris ran out ahead of me, coming to a stop at the pond that we usually fished at. He promptly began barking, staring out across the water. I came to a stop beside him and looked across the black surface. Either my eyes were playing tricks on me, or someone was on the other side of the pond. It was still dark enough that I questioned myself and rubbed my eyes before glancing again at the other bank. Nothing. Mr. Morris continued barking for a few more seconds, but eventually a squirrel caught his attention. I wasn't so easily distracted. I continued to scan the trees across the way, but finally dismissed the subtle movement as that of an animal of some sort. Mr. Morris and I continued our walk without incident. I flipped on the news and sat down with a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant. Mr. Morris likewise lapped up the fresh food that I had placed in his bowl. I took a bite of my croissant and focused on the television set. The newscaster was discussing the disappearance of a local woman, Denise Lawson. I had seen this before. The poor girl had been missing for about 2 weeks now. She was young, about 23 years old, with long red hair and green eyes. For the third time that week, I found myself remembering one of the darkest parts of my career. The disappearances had begun about a decade ago. 6 girls, aged 21 to 24, had mysteriously disappeared over the span of about 2 years. I will never forget their names: Patricia Bledsoe, Karen Whitaker, Julia Voss, Jamie Calloway, Nia Justice, and Felicia Smith. They all had 2 things in common: red hair and green eyes. Only the partial remains of 2 of them had ever been found. There had been no forensic evidence and no groundbreaking leads. Someone claimed to have seen a man with one of the girls on the night she disappeared, but that was about as close as we got to ever identifying the sick person who was taking these girls. This case was more than a little personal for me. Patricia Bledsoe was my wife's niece. I had known her since she was a little girl. I stared down listlessly at my croissant, having suddenly lost my appetite. I put the plate on the end table and got up, headed to my computer and tried to keep my mind occupied with some online solitaire. A few hours later, I got the call. It was, to my surprise, one of the officers from the station that I had known for a few years. "Hey, Detective Vincent," he said. It was my coworker, Barry. He sounded nervous. "How you doing, buddy?" I asked. Barry hesitated. I'm good, Detective Vincent. "Sir, it's about your wife." I could feel my insides twisting up, like they had when I had first heard about Patricia's disappearance. "Where's my wife, Barry?" "Sir, we've brought her in for questioning. She's a suspect in the disappearance of Denise Lawson and Tatiana Graves." I got to the station as fast as I could. When I arrived, I confronted the captain, a man I had known and collaborated with for many years. "Eric Lloyd." "Eric, what the hell are you getting at? Bringing my wife here to be hounded for something we both know full and well she didn't effing do?" 3 other officers stepped forward, but Eric subtly waved them off. He was a tall and tired man with a clean-shaven face. He looked me in the eyes before responding. "Look, Dario, you know I have the utmost respect for both you and your wife, Raven. You were at my wedding for Christ's sake, but I have to do my job regardless. Surely you understand that." I was fuming. What could possibly make you think that Raven was involved in any of these incidents? If I had a criminal living under my roof, don't you think I would know? There was a glint in Eric's eyes, and I already knew what he was going to say. "I don't know, Detective. Your son was committing arson while he was still in your house, if I remember correctly." "How dare you bring that up?" Eric sighed. "Look, just wait a few and your wife will be right out, okay? But heed my warning, don't interfere with our investigation." I paced back and forth for almost 10 more minutes, cursing indiscriminately. When Raven finally walked up to me, I didn't even notice her. "Honey, Raven, are you okay?" I took her in my arms, and then stood back, examining her closely. She looked great for a woman of 54, her blonde hair falling past her shoulders. Her heart-shaped face was full of life, as it had been when I first met her all those years ago. "Yeah, old man, I'm fine. Let's go home, I want to see Hunter." I could feel the eyes of the other officers on me as I guided my wife out of the station. We decided that she could pick her car up from the school when I dropped her off the next day. Then, of course, the conversation immediately turned to why she had been brought to the station in the first place. Eric picked me up because, well, it hurts to say this, but apparently I was one of the last people seen with Tatiana Graves before she went missing. "Who is she? You've never told me about any friends with that name." Raven sighed and looked out of the passenger window. "Tatiana was a former student of mine. She graduated a few years ago, but when I had drinks with Mariam a few nights ago, we happened to run into her. We had a good old time. Nothing seemed to be bothering her." "Eric's always been trigger happy," I muttered through gritted teeth. "When I see him in town again, I'll be sure to give him a piece of my mind." "No, Dario, it's fine. Eric was just doing his job. He and the other officers were very polite during the interview. They don't mean any harm." I was still aggravated about the whole situation, but I was happy to see that my wife was okay. I pulled up to our son's house, and we were greeted at the door by his wife Ellie and their 3-year-old Gabriel. My son Hunter was still at work, but Ellie kept us entertained. After about an hour or so, though, I wanted to go and check on Mr. Morris. Ellie volunteered to drop Raven off after Hunter got back from work, so I went back to the house alone. Mr. Morris was waiting for me in the yard. I scratched him behind his ears and we both went inside. Curious, and with time to kill, I set my eyes on the computer again. I had sworn to myself long ago that I would be the one to catch this murderer. I searched Tatiana Graves's name. When her image popped up, I groaned, shaking my head. She bore a pretty damn good resemblance to Patricia, as did all of the others who had vanished before her. It hurt to look at her for too long, so I scrolled down to read more info about her disappearance. She was 21, having graduated from the school that my wife taught at 3 years ago. Besides that, nothing else was really known about her. There were nothing said about her hobbies or occupation. I scrolled down to the comments section, wondering if anyone might post anything more in depth. The first comment I saw read horror. She got what she deserved. Either these women were horrible, horrible trolls, or else Tatiana had built a sort of reputation for herself. I was done with this regardless. It was time for a walk. The air was as frigid as I wanted to be towards Eric the next time I saw him. I trudged along behind Mr. Morris, who stopped to pee on every tree before we came to the pond again. I remembered the strange movement that I had seen earlier that Diane decided to investigate. I made my way to the other side of the pond, which was, quite honestly, a rarity. I intended to look for footprints, but the light snow had already melted. Still, I investigated the area and came to a quick conclusion. Someone had most definitely been here. A piece of black plastic, as though from a trash bag, had caught onto a hanging branch. It hadn't faded in the sun, nor was it dirty from prolonged exposure. I reached up and fingered it curiously, then looked around. Mr. Morris was lying on the ground, chewing on something. "Hey, spit it out, you scoundrel!" Mr. Morris looked up at me guiltily. I could see something gold glinting in his mouth. I knelt down and pulled it out, staring at it in disbelief. It was a bracelet. What the? I had never seen it before. Raven definitely didn't own one like it. I investigated the area further, but found nothing else out of the ordinary. I decided to head further out into the property. If someone was trespassing here, they had chosen the wrong day to do it. I had my pistol in a holster on my waist as per usual. I kept one hand on it as Mr. Morris and I pressed on. I hadn't been on this side of the pond in a while. The area was heavily wooded, and I honestly had no reason to ever come this far. My son Hunter, however, was another story. When he was going through his pyromania phase, he had been out here burning whatever he could get his hands on a regular basis. In the days before that, we had built him a treehouse on a tree that he had picked out when he was 6 years old. That same old treehouse was still somehow in one piece, though the rickety ladder that he had once used was another story entirely. I paused, my breath rising in front of me as I surveyed the scene before me. There was an indent in the grass and soil down below, indicating that the old ladder had been lying on the ground for quite some time recently. Now, however, it was leaned up against the tree, leading up to the treehouse. I could feel a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. I looked down at the bracelet, then up at the treehouse. Someone had recently climbed up there, and I suspected that they were still there. Mr. Morris sat and watched me as I slowly approached the ladder. I put one hand on it, staring up at the old wooden treehouse. "My name is Dario Vincent, and if anyone is up there, you have trespassed on my property. Come out now and I won't get the proper authorities involved." Silence. The wind blew, fluttering my jacket and hood. I kept my eyes on the little windows of the treehouse, searching for any movement. Nothing. Okay. If you aren't going to come out, I'll have to come and get you myself. I put one foot on the ladder, which gave a sudden shake. I should have known that I was going to regret the cheeseburger from the other day. I began slowly ascending the ladder, which quivered perilously with every run I reached. I held the bracelet tight in my hand as I climbed, determined to get to the bottom of this. There was a good chance that whoever was in the treehouse was a part of this whole thing. A foul, terribly familiar stench suddenly wafted into my nostrils, the smell of a rotting body. I paused, now nearly at the top of the ladder. No way, there couldn't be a... I put my hand on the top rung. The sound of a gunshot exploded nearby, more terrible than thunder in the heaviest storm. Mr. Morris started barking frantically, yet I pursued up the ladder, the smell of death becoming stronger with each step. Inside the treehouse, it was a scene from a horror film. Lying on the floor was the unmistakable decomposed body of a young woman. Long red hair, green eyes, Denise Lawson. The gunshot hadn't come from the treehouse, but from farther in the forest, perhaps an unfortunate hunter who'd stumbled upon our land. The treehouse had been occupied. I found a few articles of clothing, men's clothing, strewn around the tiny space, a makeshift bed with blankets and pillows, and empty food containers. Tucked under one of the blankets was a notepad, filled with messy handwriting. I picked it up and began to read. It was a diary, entries dating back a few months, entries detailing the abduction, entries full of remorse, entries confessing the crime. My heart pounded in my chest as I read the final entry. I couldn't resist the urge. They reminded me so much of Mom, of her fiery red hair and emerald eyes. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted to be with her, to feel like she was there with me. But I lost control every time. "Goodbye, Dad. I'm sorry." It was Hunter's handwriting. I heard footsteps coming up the ladder.
I woke up in the hospital 2 weeks ago and everyone seems off. Bear with me. I know this sounds crazy.
2 weeks ago I woke up in a hospital bed. They told me I was in a car accident. I don't remember the crash, just a blinding flash of light. Since being discharged, things have felt wrong. Not just slightly off, deeply off, like the world is wearing a mask and I'm the only one who can see the seams. Little things were off at first, easy to dismiss. But today, something happened. Something I can't explain. And now I know for sure, whatever this is, it isn't just in my head. This is real. And I'm scared as heck. At first, nothing seemed too weird. I'd never spent a night in a hospital before, so waking up in a sterile, fluorescent-lit room was bound to feel unsettling. I brushed it off. My parents were more doting than usual, but for people whose son had almost died, they took it surprisingly well. At least, until we got to the car. That's when the concern cracked, and the disappointment seeped through. They scolded me for wrecking my 2003 Saturn shitbox, calling me reckless. The word sounded right, worried, even empathetic, but something was off. My mom's face kept shifting, like she couldn't settle on how she was supposed to feel. My dad, though. He barely moved. He sat rigid, staring straight ahead, as if turning his head wasn't an option. But I could feel him watching me. His gaze lingered in the rearview mirror, heavy and cold. Each time I glanced up, I'd catch his eyes for just a split second before he snapped them back to the road. But I knew he never really looked away. After the 6th time, I stopped looking away too. The mirror became a silent one-way standoff as I waited for him to scold me through it again. He didn't so much as glance at it for the rest of the drive. It was a short drive. None of this was cause for concern really. Nothing that followed was all that crazy. But when we got home, I felt a shift. Coming from the harsh fluorescence of the hospital and the golden stretch of road outside, I wasn't prepared for the cool dimness of the house. It wasn't dark exactly. Mom always kept the shades open. She liked the light. But now, they weren't quite shut. Just not open enough. Like someone had hesitated halfway and left them there. My family didn't linger. After some pleasantries, Mom disappeared into the master bedroom, Dad went back to work, and I was left alone on the living room couch. I popped a Tylenol, took a few hits from my pen in the bathroom, and settled in. The rest of the day was mostly silent, aside from the occasional sound of Mom's bedroom door opening and closing. I wasted time scrolling on my phone, barely aware of the shifting sunlight until a beam stretched across the room and hit my eyes. I turned from my pillow to the armrest, bought myself another 20 minutes. Then another beam crept up, warming my feet like some kind of passive-aggressive warning from the sun. All right, message received. I sighed, peeled myself off the couch, and mumbled, "F it, you win," before dragging myself to my room. I was asleep before I could think too much about it. The week that followed was unusual, to say the least. It was summer break, and normally I'd be stocking shelves at Walmart or messing around with my friends, but doctor's orders were pretty straightforward. You've got a concussion, don't be an idiot. No standing for long periods, no heavy lifting, no unnecessary risks. Fine by me. I got a doctor's note, a couple of weeks off, and a temporary escape from the joys of minimum wage labor. It wasn't the end of the world, part-time jobs come and go. For now, I just had some headaches and a free pass to lay low. Better that than risking something worse, whether it was from dreading work or from one of my friends intentionally checking a basketball into my skull because we're over-competitive degenerates. I didn't really care to go outside much. The weather hadn't been as sunny as the first day I got back. Clouds hung low, thick and unmoving, like they were pressing down on the neighborhood. Even when the sun did break through, it was this weak watery light that barely seemed to touch the ground. It just made staying inside feel more justified. So I did. I moved the Xbox from the basement to my room. Normally, that would have been a no-go. But if anyone asked, I'd just plead the concussion card and call it a win. No one even commented on it, which felt strange. Like they should have, but didn't. I just holed up, gaming, eating, zoning out in front of Skyrim lore videos in the living room, whatever. Aside from family dinners, I didn't talk to my parents much. The conversations at the table were dull, barely conversations at all. Dad was working later than usual, often slipping away right after eating. Mom was around, I knew that much. I heard her. The bedroom doors opening and closing. The creak of the floorboards when she walked. The soft shh of her feet brushing across the carpet upstairs, but I barely saw her. Not in the kitchen, not in the living room, not even when I grabbed snacks at night. Come to think of it, I don't think I ever saw her downstairs. Aside from dinner. Some groceries spoiled, which was weird because Mom was normally on top of that kind of thing. When I pointed it out, she took me shopping, which was actually kind of nice. I got way more say in what we stocked the fridge with than usual. That was a win. But as we wandered the aisles, I noticed something. People were staring at me. Not in a casual, passing way, intensely. Like they were trying to memorize my face, or maybe like they weren't sure what they were looking at. Each time I caught someone, they snapped their head away like they hadn't been watching at all. But the feeling stayed. Not a single person looked like they could hold a normal expression on their faces. It was like they shifted through raw emotions during the most mundane tasks. I began to feel in danger. And worse, I started to notice something else. As Mom and I passed people, I swore I could hear them pivot to watch me after we walked by. I never actually saw it happen, but I could hear it. The soft squeak of a shoe turning, the faint rustle of fabric shifting. I wanted to ask Mom if she noticed anything, but the words stuck in my throat. If she hadn't, I'd sound crazy. If she had, I didn't want to know. I tried to shrug it off. I'd been a complete goblin for the past week, barely keeping up with shaving, and yeah, my facial hair was patchy as hell. Maybe I just looked like a mess. Maybe I was imagining things. Whatever. When I got back home, I hopped on Xbox, made plans with some friends for later in the week, and told myself I'd get cleaned up by then. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. 2 days passed. Nothing noteworthy, just my growing awareness of how off everything felt. Mom was moving around more. At least, I think she was. I'd hear her footsteps, soft shuffling noises that always seemed to stop right outside my door. The first few times, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just passing by. Maybe she was listening for signs that I was awake. But the more I paid attention, the more it felt deliberate. The house was dim, sure, but my room wasn't. I kept my bay window shades open, letting in just enough light to make it feel normal. Or at least less like the rest of the house. The hallway outside, though? It was always in shadow. There was only one time of day where light from the high windows in the living room even touched my door, and it wasn't now. That's why I knew I shouldn't have seen anything. And yet, I did. I heard her. That same soft shuffle. I glanced over from the edge of my bed, half expecting nothing, just another trick of my nerves. But for a split second, I saw them. Her toenails. Just at the edge of the door. The instant I registered them, they shot back, too fast. So fast it was like they hadn't been there at all. But I knew what I saw. The carpet where they had been left the faintest depression before slowly rising back into place. My stomach twisted. Okay, that was it. No more dab pen. No more convincing myself I wasn't tripping out when clearly, I was seeing stuff. I waited, listened, heard her shuffle away. Her door clicked shut. I exhaled, rubbed my face and stood up. Enough of this. I needed to get out of the house. Needed to see my friends, James, Nikki D and Tyler. The goal was simple. Sober up, ground myself and maybe, just maybe, bring up what was going on. Over Xbox, they'd all sounded completely normal. I'd only mentioned a few things in passing, nothing that set off any alarms for them. Most of our talks had just been about girls from our school, memes and BSing in Rainbow Six Siege lobbies. Maybe I was just overthinking. Maybe everything was fine. But as I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that, somewhere upstairs, Mother was listening. Obviously, driving wasn't an option. My car was totaled. My parents handed me $250 for the scrap it was apparently worth, and that was that. So I dusted off my old bike from the shed in the back. I didn't even glance at the house on my way out. Didn't need to see my creepy-ass mom peeking from some upstairs window like a horror movie extra. If I did, I'd probably swerve straight into traffic just to avoid dealing with it. Instead, I shoved the thoughts down and let myself believe, for just a little longer, that I was just tripping balls. That was safer. That was better. Besides, my odds were good. I still had headaches. I was still a little stoned. I was still taking Tylenol. Put it all together and maybe my brain was just running like a laggy Xbox. I rode up to the high school football field in about 20 minutes and hopped the fence. Everyone was already there. James, Nikki D, and Tyler. And what followed? It was awesome. The dap-ups were a little stiff at first, but once we got going, everything fell into place. We had a pump, a football, which lasted about 10 minutes before needing air again, and a frisbee. The sun was bright for the first time since I'd left the hospital, and for the first time in days, I felt good. Shaved, surrounded by friends, I started to hope maybe I'd just been missing real socialization. I almost fell for it. We played for hours. Wiped, we debriefed before heading home. I went to the old water pump first. Yanked the lever, drank. The others chatted behind me. I flopped onto the grass, pulled out my phone. The sun washed out the screen, so I tilted it and froze. In the black reflection, I saw them. All three. James and Tyler's jaws hung impossibly wide, revealing rows of teeth. Their heads tilted, eyes locked on me, arms dangling too loosely. Like something out of a nightmare. Nikki was shifting, like he couldn't quite get it right. And yet, their conversation continued normally. But James and Tyler weren't moving their mouths. My whole body jerked. My phone slipped from my hands. Nikki asked if I was good. I swallowed hard, forced a smile. Yeah, great. I turned, and they looked normal. But my stomach twisted. I knew what I saw. You sure? Yeah, my head's pounding. I should go home. Nikki frowned. Need a ride? F no. Nah bro, I got this. They laughed. I stalled, tossing the football, stealing glances at reflections. The first few times, their eyes darted away. Then they just stopped looking at me. But I felt watched. I made it home, pulling into the old garage. The moment I opened the door, I froze. My car sat in the center. Perfect. Not wrecked, not even scratched. It was supposed to be scrapped. Inside, the seat was pushed back, like someone much taller had driven it. Dust coated everything. I did a quick check, making sure it had run if needed, then rushed inside. Rapid shuffling, door slam. My mom's voice, too normal. Honey, you missed dinner. Want me to heat some up? Nope. I'll handle it. The living room TV glowed blue. I grabbed snacks and locked myself in my room. Dug out my old iPod, set it to charge. Too quiet. I FaceTimed it from my phone, a hidden eye in the hall closet, watching when no one knew. I almost regretted it. She moved first. Her bedroom door slammed open. By the time I grabbed my phone, she was there, standing, swaying. Jaw distended beyond its limit, skin stretched tight, sagging under her eyes. Thin patchy hair clung to her scalp. Arms bent at unnatural angles, fingers dangling. Her mouth didn't move, but she whispered, "Honey, are you awake?" Perfectly clear. Perfectly human. "Yeah, just moving my TV." A pause. "Can I see?" "Tomorrow," I lied. "I'm naked." "Please work." "Okay, tomorrow then." Then the shadow past the stairs moved. An arm, thin, dangling. Then another. Then a body, lowering itself from the ceiling. Dad. He climbed the stairs silently. Past Mom. Went into their bedroom. Closed the door. Then, without a sound, he came back. If I hadn't been watching, I'd have sworn it was still her. For 2 hours, they've been outside my door, tracking every move. It's 3:02 a.m. If I can last till daylight, I can jump from the window. Get to the car, get out of town. F. They're lowering themselves. Peeking under the door. I might have to go right now. I'll update this when I'm safe. There's a new trend going around where people play dead in your peripheral vision. I just figured out the horrifying reason why they're doing it. I first saw it happen at work. I just finished ringing up a customer when every hair on my neck stood on end. Something in my peripheral vision caught my eye. I work at a board game store, and standing in an alcove peering at the game shelves was a skinny dude with a scraggly beard. His back was to me, but when he turned sideways, right at the edge of my vision I could see his mouth was gaping wide open, like he was screaming. Weird, right? I glanced up, ready to laugh and ask him what was up, but the dude was just chilling, totally normal face. A slight wrinkle on his forehead, lips pursed as he read the back cover of Wingspan. He looked at me. "Yo, I keep hearing about this. Is it any good?" "Slightly overrated in my opinion," I replied. "But many people do seem to enjoy it. I'm trying to find a game my girlfriend might play. She's not really into board games, and doesn't like competitive stuff. You have any good co-op games? Might I suggest a roll and write? Technically competitive, but you can't attack or interact with other players and mostly do your own thing on your board. They're also very beginner friendly." I turned to grab one of the reserved ones from behind the counter, and as I turned back around I nearly jumped out of my skin, because the man had approached so he was directly in front of the counter, and his mouth was wide open in a scream. Eyes wide. Like he was a zombie about to bite me. But it must have been my imagination because as soon as I looked at him straight on, he just looked back at me, mouth quirked. "You all right there, my dude?" he asked. Cartographers is our top-selling roll and write," I stammered, recovering myself. But every time I took my eyes away from his face, in my periphery, he seemed to be like one of the undead, a corpse with a gaping mouth. I decided to ignore his behavior in the hope that he'd stop. He placed an order for cartographers, and I told him I'd give him a call when his copy came in. As I took down his details, much to my annoyance he did not stop, but continued to stand in my periphery silently screaming. The next week, when I went in for a haircut, the guy sitting a couple of chairs over was also playing dead. He appeared to be slumped in the barber chair, head lolled to one side, blue eyes wide and unseeing. But the stylist kept flitting around him, scissors snipping, and when I turned to look at him directly, he was no longer playing dead, but instead speaking to the stylist, one hand gesturing from under the cape. Yet when I looked away a moment later, gone were his gestures. I could hear his voice, but he appeared to be lying motionless in his chair in the corner of my eye. A corpse. When my haircut was finished and I looked over again, he was gone from the chair. This just kept happening. Honestly, I thought it must be some sort of online fad, with people randomly pretending to be dead. The internet has spawned stranger pranks. I don't have much of an online presence and don't keep up with popular memes or TikTok trends, and in my head, it made sense. It remained a relatively rare occurrence for me, and mostly happened in large crowds, for example, the airport. That was where I finally figured out the cause. I was on my way to visit family, going through airport security. A little farther behind me in line stood a young couple who were pretending to be corpses whenever I stopped looking at them. It was annoying, and I kept turning my head quickly, hoping to catch them in the act, but they were always behaving normally the moment I looked directly at them. And of course, what should have tipped me off is that no one else in the line was reacting to their behavior. Only I could see it. But at that point I was still acting under the assumption that everyone else was in on some new TikTok prank, and I wasn't. I'm 42 and definitely give how do you do, fellow kids vibes by today's social media standards. So anyway, I put my belongings on the conveyor belt, and the couple in my periphery were now 100% normal. Finally, I thought, they stopped pretending. But the moment I collected my stuff and turned around, I nearly shrieked because both of them loomed next to me, standing slouched, faces contorted into death masks. You can't see sharp details in your periphery, but you can catch when someone is making a terrible dead face. But when I looked at them head on to tell them to cut that shit out, they were both normal, staring at me like I was the weird one. The woman actually hid behind her partner. That's when I realized two things. One, that I was the source of the weirdness, and two, that more specifically the source was in my stuff. I felt around in my pockets, my fingers closed on cold metal, and that's when it all clicked for me. I found my father's pocket watch. Now, a little background on this watch. Dad gave it to me the day before he died. It's cracked and doesn't run.
He'd had it for as long as I can remember, and when I was little, I asked him why he always carried a broken watch. He told me it was a family heirloom and that the cracks didn't matter because it told time in a different way. Those were his words. When he finally passed it down to me, he looked troubled as he told me, "I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, to be able to see the things it shows." My father told me to sell it, but I never could bring myself to. Dad was always very soft-spoken and polite. He ran an antique shop that closed after he died. I think he wanted me to run it, but I never had the passion or the interest. Our lives just took different paths. The watch is the one antique he made sure to give to me. What I'm still trying to figure out is why. Because as far as I can tell, there's no ambiguity about it. The damn thing is definitely cursed. See, once I knew the source was the watch, it all fell into place. At the end of that family trip, when I came back to work, I followed my hunch and looked up that guy who ordered the cartographer's game. He never came back to pick it up when it came in. I'd kept it sitting on the shelf for him, even though I should have just put it out on the main shelves for people to browse. It still had his name on it, and I searched his details and right away found his obituary from that same week he'd come into the store. So, that's what Dad meant about the watch telling time in a different way. If I'd known what was going on back when the customer ordered the game, I could have warned him. Could have let him know, "Hey bud, maybe grab something that's in stock currently." Better yet, forget the games, go do whatever it is you want to in your last hours of life. Start checking off that bucket list. Maybe buy something more meaningful, since it'll be your last chance to give your girlfriend a gift. But would he have listened? Looking back, I remember when I was a kid how things would happen with Dad that didn't make sense at the time. He'd get in random arguments with strangers. It was so uncharacteristic, because my father wasn't a confrontational man. Always polite. But once in a while, at the antique store, I remember he'd step outside with a customer, and the customer would leave upset, yelling or swearing or hysterically sobbing, sometimes leaving so quickly they'd forgot whatever it was they'd purchased. And once, too, at the mall, Dad was told to leave a store after upsetting an employee. Stuff like that. Now I realize he must have tried to warn people. But did it actually help those people? Any of them? Is the watch a blessing or a curse? The watch wasn't always cracked. Somebody cracked it. Hurled it against a wall, or the floor, maybe in a moment of frustration. Maybe my grandfather. But he didn't throw it away. He passed it to my dad. Now, I wish Dad had sold it. Wish he'd given it to someone else. I know it's not his fault. Everyone has their time. But there are some things that maybe, people are just better off not knowing. And maybe Dad thought warning people was the right thing, but I'm team curse on this one. Knowing is definitely a curse. I'd rather not know. I should have thrown this watch away. But like my father, and his father before, I just didn't. Now it's too late. I'm sitting here at home, and every time I pass the bathroom mirror, every time I catch a glimpse of my reflection at the edge of my vision, it's just too late to unsee my own dead eyes, staring back at me.
I'm an Uber driver. The app said his name was Eric, and Eric was taking his sweet time. He lived in one of those old complexes, former military housing that was probably slapped together in the 40s and was now owned by some LA slumlord who charged his tenants $2,500 per month for a little one-bedroom unit. While I was sitting there getting impatient, I saw a few people sprinting across the street about a block ahead of me, lit up orange in the glow of the streetlights. Not going for a jog either. I mean, they were running as fast they could go, like someone was chasing them, and I could hear someone hollering, but I couldn't tell what they were saying. They ran out of sight and then the street went quiet again except for that distant wail of sirens. And it was about that time when I started feeling really uneasy. Something in the air felt off, and suddenly the hair on my arms was standing up on end. My attention was fully fixed on that eerie, empty street ahead, so Eric scared the holy shit out of me when he yanked open my back door and said, "Are you Wes?" I told him I was, and he piled into the back seat and slammed the door shut. didn't give me COVID all the time, especially since I was still struggling after my last infection. But the strap had broken on my mask earlier that day. We hit a stoplight. Nobody else was at the intersection, and we sat there waiting for nothing. I considered running it, but then a police chopper banked low overhead, and I thought better of it. So, what happened? I asked. I caught his glance in the mirror. He looked like he had just remembered I was in the car with him. He spoke with a pained, sluggish intonation, barely moving his jaw to form the words. Someone attacked me. Oh shit, who? My neighbor. I woke up because I thought I heard something in my apartment, got up and found the dude standing in my living room completely naked. What, are you serious? The light turned green and I took off again. Eric didn't elaborate for a moment, but then I think he felt my eyes on him in the mirror. He was bleeding too. Honestly, I knew this guy was a bubble off when I moved into the place, but it wasn't a big deal because he kept to himself. But not tonight. No, tonight he decided to break into my place and flap his weird little peener around in the middle of my living room. What did you do? I didn't know what to do. He was talking crazy, jabbering at me. Before I could really do anything, he jumped on me and he bit me. He bit you? Yeah, pretty bad too. Then he ran off. Jesus Christ. Yeah. He shook his head like he couldn't believe it himself. The action seemed to hurt his wounded neck and he grimaced. I dreaded how much blood he was probably getting on my seats. I almost missed my next turn on account of watching him in the mirror. He leaned back in his seat and groaned softly. He really looked bad. I started to get worried that this guy might end up dying in my back seat, so I put on a little more speed. A fire truck strobed through an intersection up ahead and disappeared from view as I brought the car to a brief halt at a stop sign. Something above me caught my eye and I leaned forward to look. There was an object perched on the long goose neck of the nearest streetlight. It was one of those older streetlights, probably from the 90s, with a sodium vapor bulb that cast an orange disc on the street below. Whatever was on top of it was large, and at first it struck me as a nonsensical mass of cloth balanced impossibly up there. But a split second later, it struck me as the shape of a crouching man. What the hell? I said out loud, and I could hear Eric shift in his seat behind me to look out the window. I was already rationalizing that a man crouched on top of a streetlight like a vulture was a completely idiotic notion, and that I must be mistaken when the thing moved. And I could clearly make out the shape of a stooped head and arms and, most alarmingly, eyes. 2 pinpricks of reflected light like the retinas of a wild animal. I felt the bottom drop out of my stomach. Go, go now, go. I jumped at the sound of Eric's panicked voice behind me, and without thinking I hit the gas. We shot off down the street, and although I tried to pick out the figure on the streetlight in my mirror, it was immediately obscured by a tangle of jacaranda branches. What was that? I asked. Hearing the fearful strain in my own voice made my heart pump even faster. But Eric didn't respond. Instead, he was writhing around on my back seat, moaning softly. I took another turn and spotted a sign for the freeway on-ramp ahead. Eric's movements were becoming spastic. I felt him thump against the backrest of my seat, more pained moaning. Christ, this dude's totally gonna give up the ghost in the back of my car. Hey man, just hang on. We're almost there. Keep pressure on it and, just keep pressure on it. A tortured cry and a scuffling sound from the back seat. Then abrupt silence. I glanced in my mirror again to see Eric's shape and silhouette. He was sitting bolt upright now, still as a statue. I was taken aback by the abrupt change in behavior. I could hear him take a deep inhale through his nose like someone meditating. Then he spoke. Oh, negative. His voice was totally calm now, calm and low. It sent a chill up my spine. I hit the on-ramp and we started the short climb to the elevated freeway, putting on speed. I instantly regretted it because I couldn't pull over as easily on the freeway if I needed to. Sorry, what? I said. You're O negative, universal donor. What? He was right, I was O negative, but how in the James Randy fuck could he possibly know that? I've lost a lot of blood, I could use some O negative right about now, he said. And his voice was all thick and croaking like he was some pervert trying to talk me out of my clothes. Dude, you're freaking me out, I said. And then this piece of shit giggled. He actually giggled, like some little schoolgirl who was up to no good. I was starting to panic, and merging onto the freeway was a clumsy blur. Thankfully, there was very little traffic at that hour. I kept looking in the mirror, but I couldn't make out his face, just the shape of his head framed against the rear window. I could see him pull the bloody t-shirt away from his neck, and then he made a strange hissing noise like air through a hose. I've got a hole in my neck, he said in a raspy, matter-of-fact tone. I can breathe right through it. I realized I was drifting out of my lane at about 60 miles per hour, and I numbly corrected course. Before I could think of anything to say, Eric seemed to snap into a completely different mood. Or maybe a completely different personality. He doubled over and started whimpering. Oh God, what's happening to me? What's happening? Hey, just try to stay calm, hang on, we're like 2 minutes away, I said. Oh God, it hurts, it burns. He kept whimpering and moaning, twisting and writhing in shadow behind me, his knees thumping the back of my seat like that awful little kid who has sat behind me on every flight I've ever taken. Suddenly he sat up straight again with a strange animal huff. Dead silence. I tried to glance over my shoulder, but I had to keep my eyes on the road to navigate a curve in the freeway as it ramped up into an arching overpass. You good? I asked lamely. No response, just the sound of Well, I guess air wheezing through that hole in his throat. I put on speed, quickly passing a couple of slower-moving cars. "The exit, it's coming right up," I said, as much to myself as to Eric. Then he spoke again, and not in a way that I liked. "I'm gonna kill you, but you're not gonna die." His voice was grating and filled with a malice that made my skin crawl and my throat tighten. "Hey man, just take it easy. There's no problem here," I stammered. "I'm gonna drink the life right out of you, O negative." My heart hammered in my chest. I willed myself to sit up straighter in my seat, to crimp my face into my best Clint Eastwood scowl. "Look, buddy, I don't want to have to do it, but I was taught Brazilian jiu-jitsu by an actual Brazilian, and I can bend you into a pretzel if it comes to it. So let's just stay cool here, and you know what? This ride is officially over. I'm gonna pull over now and you can..." I looked up at the mirror again and my heart stopped. The back seat was empty. I grabbed the mirror and tilted it to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but he was just gone. Was this motherfucker lying on my floor now? And that's when I felt his breath on my cheek. Cold like a draft from an open freezer door and reeking of some distant rot that I couldn't place. I froze, my hands stone clubs on the steering wheel as he wheezed softly into my ear for one long, agonizing moment. I started to turn my head, inching my eyes over to look, not minding that my Civic was drifting across lanes. Eric's face was right next to mine. With both hands as he tried to bite my throat with those cannibal teeth. An instant later, we had slammed into the concrete barrier on the edge of the freeway, pitched up and sideways, and then we were sailing airborne off the side of the overpass. That fall felt like 100 years. I saw the moon go by the windows, fat and yellow. The car rolled in the air, all my shit went airborne, and I found myself momentarily amazed by how much stuff I actually had in there. It all seemed to happen in slow motion, and I felt like I had time to consider many different aspects of my predicament as we fell. Eric wasn't buckled in, so he hit the roof, then the door, then the other door, then the roof again. Then asphalt that was bathed in that smoky streetlight orange was rushing up to meet us. And that was it. The next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital. The instant I regained consciousness, I thrashed around like I had just landed in boiling water, knocked over an IV stand and kicked a nurse so hard in the can that she yelped and ran across the room. "You're lucky to be alive." That's what they told me, and I couldn't agree more. But what really fucked me up was when the doctors told me that I had been alone in the car when the cops showed up. The paramedics had pulled me out of the wreck, but the way the doctors told it, there hadn't been hide nor hair of a passenger on the scene. Almost immediately, I felt like they didn't believe me. I asked if they'd found the bloody t-shirt Eric had been holding against his neck, but nobody in the hospital knew anything about that. Later on, a characteristically dismissive cop showed up, mostly to judge me for wrecking my car. He didn't have any additional information, and he stated flatly that they had found me in a wreck that should have killed me, and that if someone had actually been in the car with me, they had miraculously survived as well and apparently fled the scene. Whatever the case, I guess Eric hadn't taken the time to bite the throat out of my unconscious body while I was dangling upside down from my seatbelt. My mother was notified that I was in the hospital, and she jumped on a plane from Texas to come see me. She's supposed to be landing in about an hour. My cousin is my only family member who lives in the area, but he's apparently in Canada right now on the set of Business Girl Goes Back to Her Hometown for Christmas and falls in love with a guy in a Peacoat 6. No matter. All things considered, my injuries are pretty manageable. Of course, there are other issues to contend with now, namely figuring out what the hell just happened. What the hell is currently happening? It's not just this Eric guy who went all demon mode on me in the car. It's everything. All the sirens, the police, the ambulances, the fire trucks, the choppers, the people fleeing across the street, the fucking dude perched on the light pole like a 6-foot owl. As I sit here in my hospital room, there's an electric current of quietly unfolding disaster in the city around me. The hospital staff is bustling, and although nobody wants to give me the time of day about it, I can tell they're being inundated with a rash of new patients. Cops are marching up and down the hallways. I can hear screaming from a room nearby. Not 20 minutes ago, a squadron of military choppers just roared by the window on their way to do God knows what. And sure, you could probably explain that all away, but it really comes down to a feeling in my gut. I've used my phone to search online, and I found some people on social media talking about some weird stuff that's just happened to them. Some of it bears more than a passing resemblance to what I've described here. Talk of ghouls, talk of vampires, talk of some kind of nightmarish supernatural epidemic. Perhaps even more disturbing are the hordes of people who have shown up to tell these folks that they're full of shit. And officially, there's nothing. No articles, no news reports, no government announcements. Nada, zilch. It's like the authorities have committed to telling us nothing and the general public has committed to pretending that everything is fine in normal trademark. But I'll bet my life that something is happening here. Something big, something hellish. And it's going to come boiling out into the open very soon. It's already in the air. I've never felt more sure of anything. If you're in Los Angeles, tell me with a straight face that you're not feeling this too.
No, I wouldn't ask a million times. We're just breaking all the rules. No, I never last for long, but I make this right for you. I know it's driving you crazy, calling